Alright, so picture this, a 75-inch full array local dimming TV with quantum dots, support for Dolby Atmos and Dolby Vision, Google Assistant and Alexa built-in, 700 nits peak brightness, and all for under $1,300. It is pretty stacked. Okay, maybe not that brightness part, but today we're going to see what's inside the box and do some testing off the screen to see how it performs, so stick around. This box is huge. But anyways, hey guys, it's the Villaman here, home theater enthusiast and lover of all things tech. Now, if you're new here, then on this channel, we review, demo, and compare TVs like this. So if you haven't subscribed yet, then you should definitely do that if you like awesome videos, because we have plenty of that here. All right, let's begin. There's nothing there. The only thing you'll find in the top of the box are the feet. That's it. So stuffed in the back you'll find the remote, the power cable, and batteries, of course. Something tells me not everyone will have a big enough surface to lay this TV on so they can install the stand. But of course you can always use the box that the TV came in along with the styrofoam as added structural support to create a flat surface for that. I really appreciate that Hisense gives you the ability to mount the feet in two locations, whether that be at the outer edges or in the middle. So you likely won't be limited by the type of TV stand that you have. The H8G comes in 4 sizes, 50, 55, 65, and a 75-inch screen size like we have here. It's a 4K panel with a 60Hz refresh rate and have 90 full array local dimming zones with a peak brightness of 700 nits. It supports HDR 10, Dolby Vision, and hybrid log gamma HDR standards. It has quantum dots for wide color gamut support and Hisense's high view picture processing technology. It runs the Android TV Smart OS and supports Google and Alexa smart assistants. It has 4 HDMI 2.0 ports and 2 USB ports. The TV runs a seemingly stock version of Android OS and the UI is pretty responsive. And there are of course all the apps that you expect to see on Android present here. So what are my impressions so far? I mean, besides this being massive, it's funny because I normally review 65-inch TVs, so having this 75-inch TV on this stand just looks comically huge, but I guess that's a good thing, right? Let's do some testing of the screen to see how it performs. We'll do that using the Spears & Munsell benchmarking and calibration disc, and we'll set the output to 2000 nits. And in this first test of tone mapping, we see that the TV maintains separation in each quadrant up to the brightest point, which is not something I typically see. And for reference, this is how it actually should look, but this one is in SDR, not HDR. This next test we use to determine how aggressive the local dimming algorithm is. The more aggressive it is, the more vignetting you'll see in the corners of the white squares. And here we don't see as much vignetting in the corners, so it tells you that the local dimming algorithm isn't that aggressive, which from my testing is something I've also gathered. The star field test is a pretty challenging test for an LCD TV, and what it shows is that if the TV receives a low enough stimulus, then it won't actually generate a picture, in that it took a while for the test to appear on screen in certain instances. The TV has 5 different levels of motion enhancement, and though it can smooth out fast moving motion like sports, it does result in some motion artifacting, especially visible on the edges of objects like you see here. This is how it looks without motion enhancement enabled. It handles 24p content pull down well and doesn't result in any judder. In this next quantization test where we test for banding, we can see that there is banding in the 8-bit source, but in the 10-bit source below it, we can see that the gradient is much smoother and it doesn't have that same banding that's in the 8-bit source above it. Now let's see how the backlight handles a challenging bright object on a dark screen so we can count those local dimming zones. This is an HDR backlight test I made, and if you want to test it out on your TV to see how well it does, then you can use the links in the description. Now let's check out the viewing angles. As you can see, there is a noticeable loss in contrast and color shifting as we shift off axis. This is especially noticeable in darker scenes or ones with lots of color. Next, we'll test the screen's anti-reflective properties using my studio light set to 100% brightness. And as you can see, the screen is also not matte, so there is a lot of reflections in rooms with a lot of ambient lighting, and there's not much of an anti-reflective coating on the screen, so lights or bright lights will be reflected pretty prominently. The screen's reflectivity is similar to what I've seen in LG's OLED TVs, but it certainly does not compare to the Samsung QLED TVs, which have an excellent anti-reflective coating. It has pretty thin bezels and this metal trim all the way around it, and it actually looks like the screen is resting on top of that metal trim, which looks pretty modern and pretty nice. I like it. The screen is a bit more reflective than I'd like, so with only 700 nits of peak brightness, it might have a hard time in a room with a lot of ambient lighting. It has 90 local dimming zones, which is a good amount, but I think the contrast performance isn't as good as the Samsung Q80T, which has 48, almost half the amount of zones. So I think the Samsung Q80T, it gets brighter and it has more or better control of the local dimming zones, so it has a better contrast performance. But again, that TV is twice the price of this one, so the TV doesn't have quite as much of that HDR pop that you'd find in a brighter set or one with better contrast performance. The colors out of the box just aren't that vivid, and I think we need a bit of fine tuning to really dial in to actually get a really good picture. And if I can actually fine tune the settings to make it look really good, I'll create a best picture settings video and share those with you. I think one of the most comparable TVs to compare this to would be the TCL 6 series, but I haven't reviewed that one since 2018, so I couldn't say how it performs compared to it right now. But at under $1,300 for a 75-inch TV with the performance that I've seen here, is actually a pretty good value proposition. But I'll be doing some more tests going forward, and I'll give you my full conclusion in the full review. If there's anything you would like to see in that review, let me know in the comments, and I'll do my best to actually either answer the question or implement it in the review. Don't forget to like the video if you liked it or found it helpful, and subscribe if you haven't yet. Thanks for watching, and until next time, this has been your friend and neighborhood Villaman saying be safe and peace.